This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network. TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Red Side Trent as Forest welcome Manchester City to the City Ground at lunchtime kickoff on Saturday. I'm delighted to be joined by Mark McCarthy of a Manchester City fan and a shirts collector, as Reece Lane will be so happy to hear about because he's also a fan of this. Mark, thank you very much for joining us. How are you, first of all?
Very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Obviously, it's coming to that time of the season now, very much crunch time. 11 games left of the season, but who would have thought that if we'd said Forest would be above Manchester City with 11 games to go, we'd actually only be third and fourth in the league rather than being maybe first and second. How have you found the season so far, Mark?
Well, as you said that, Adam, my first thought was, well, I'm sure you're enjoying this part of the season a lot more than you probably was enjoying the latter part of last season. But yeah, it's been... Where'd you start with City this season? We've been spoilt rotten, haven't we, over the last 8-9 years, especially with Pep. So, there's been a drop-off. It was going to come, but I'm still enjoying the season. I'm probably enjoying it that little bit more because there's less pressure of, do we need a point to go top? Why? Because it's very stressful, as you're now finding out when you're sat in these Champions League places, etc. So I'm enjoying the season. It was coming a little bit of drop-off. I don't think that everybody saw it would drop as quick as it did, but I'm enjoying the season.
You're not putting this all down to a certain midfielder being injured. I'm not talking about De Bruyne being in and out of the team. I'm talking about Rodri, who's Ballon d'Or winner, Rodri. Is it all based on him not being in the team, or has it been a lot of a much more deep-lying issue than that for City this season, Mark?
Well, I live by the philosophy, there's no such thing as a one-man team. Yes, he's a phenomenal player. Of course he is, and he does hold it together. Really, with the drop-off from him, is he really that good that we could drop that far from just him missing? It's a big factor of it, but there's lots of other circumstances as well. Players getting older all at once, a few players out of form. So I can't put it down to one player. I'd like to. It'd be easy, wouldn't it? Say it's all Rodri's fault, but I can't say that.
Yeah, I just want to talk about your recent form as well, Mark, and the last game you played in the Premier League, which is a 1-0 win away at Manchester City, which must be Pep Guardiola's one of his biggest achievements as City manager. It never seems to that Spurs have always been your bogey side. For those who didn't get to watch it, obviously in full detail, might have just watched highlights. How was that game against Spurs? Was it a well-earned victory, or was it a lot harder than thought?
It should have been a lot easier than the 1-9 scoreline. It was a game, the old cliche of two halves. City were fantastic first half, and Spurs fans I was talking to tell me Spurs are predominantly better in the second half. So it was completely different. They probably deserved a point in the end, Spurs, but we could have been out of sight first half. I call it White Hart Lane. We've not got a great record there, but we are unbeaten in 3 and not conceded in 3 there. 2 in the league and 1 in the cup. So, but yeah, we had some tough times down there.
Recent form as well. Obviously, City have progressed to the last 8 of the FA Cup, went out of the Champions League. Form in the Premier League has been a little up and down. How are you kind of looking towards the end of the season now? Are you trying to just consolidate in the top 4, get Champions League again, and possibly go for the FA Cup as your early part of silverware? What's kind of your aims as from City point of view for the rest of the season, Mark?
I think it's got to be top 4, hasn't it? The club, that would be the priority for the club. For me, FA Cups now, I'd love to win the FA Cup, but if we can get the Cup over the line and finish top 4, I'd take the FA Cup over top 4. I might get slandered for saying that in this Champions League football. It's what it's all about, isn't it? But the priority's got to be top 4 for the club. But for fans, from my point of view as a fan, I'd go all out for the FA Cup now.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a Forest point of view, I think if Forest weren't to win the FA Cup themselves, we would like City to potentially win it, because obviously with Brighton, Bournemouth, and Fulham in there as well, if one of them win it and don't finish inside the champion, outside of Europe, and Forest kind of finish, God knows where they could finish over these last 11 games, one of those teams might take our spot, similar to how Man United took Newcastle's spot this season. So that's an interesting one. With the squad then this season, Mark, obviously January was a massive, it seemed like a big overhaul almost in a very short space of time. I think you brought in several players. You might have to fill in the gaps if I miss anyone. So Omar Mamouche, Nico Gonzalez, Kuzmanov, I think that's how you say his name, is it? You might have to correct me. Was it anywhere? Have I missed anyone else? I'm trying to think now.
Young Brazilian centre half, played in both the cup games.
From Palmeiras, right?
Yeah, and then the Argentinian lad, who I can't pronounce his name, has come in. He was actually signed last summer, but he's been away with the Argentinian under 17s or 18s, I think. So he's come in. Whether he'll feature this season, I don't know. But you can see what they're doing again. They're going young again, and he'll build another squad there for sure. But they needed reinforcements. I mean, there's a huge myth that City got this great big squad. They've got a good squad, but a very small one. So when they're injured, if you look at our bench every week, there's 4, 5, 6 academy players, 2 goalkeepers. So we're desperately in need of them players, and Kushkinov has come in and looks fantastic. Everyone's judged him on the first 5 minutes he had against Chelsea, which was probably his worst 5 minutes debut. But after that, he looks assured, he can pass. I mean, Wednesday at Spurs, he was knocking long balls, and I looked at my lad and thought, he can do everything already. That might sound I'm building him up a little bit too much, but they don't often buy bad players these days, Man City, that's for sure.
Was it much needed, like, because of especially with how much was spent and the amount of players brought in? Because it's very unusual for City to do this sort of thing. Normally it's like 1 or 2, and it's quite carefully calculated. Has it really been that bad that you needed this amount of players in January, which is it's an unusual time to be busy, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, no, they were crying out for it. I think we needed numbers in and fast. I mean, we had a fair few injuries. They're not excuses. We all get them. But there was lack of numbers massively through injuries. And players have got older together. You can see some of them, Bernardo Silva, fantastic. But the levels they've played at for so long, there was going to be this drop-off. And they look absolutely exhausted, some of the players. So some of our games with a similar pattern, Bournemouth, Brighton away, we might be 1-0 up, wasn't at Bournemouth, but 60, 70 minutes, there was a complete drop-off. And so the team was just exhausted, and there was nothing to freshen it up. So it was imperative they brought them numbers in January.
How important is this for Pep Guardiola in terms of his career? Because obviously, throughout his whole managerial career, a lot of people will argue, well, he's never had to build or rebuild teams, because like Barcelona had pretty much the best side in Europe, went to Bayern Munich, had the best side in Europe at the time there, came to City, almost had the best side in Europe again, although took a little longer to win the Champions League, probably by some accounts. This is a really interesting period of his managerial career now, because it seems like he's actually got to rebuild the squad. I mean, losing Company, Stones is so in and out of the team. Ederson looks like he could be going. Kyle Walker's just gone. De Bruyne looks like he's on his last legs. You've just mentioned Bernardo Silva, Gundogan. These are aging players now, like you say. Like, is this quite a pivotal point in not only for Man City but for Guardiola as well, to kind of prove that he can rebuild a team as well?
Yeah, I agree, definitely. But I think what gets forgotten was Pep's, because he's been so good. His first season with us, 16-17, he kind of inherited, it'd be unfair to say, a squad like it is now. But I mean, there was aging players, Zabaleta, Clichy, saying that couldn't do the things he wanted to do. So with the following season, we went out and bought Ederson, Mendy. Didn't work out him, but very rarely they don't. Kyle Walker. They all came in. So you could argue he didn't inherit a very good squad then, and he built that squad to achieve what he's achieved. So it's kind of similar. He's got to do it again. Can he do it again? Has he got the? I think he can, and I think he will do, because he certainly wouldn't want to leave City off the back of. I think it's hard to call it a poor season if you finish fourth or maybe a cup final, but I think he'll build it again, and he'll possibly stay maybe a bit longer than the 2 years they're saying, and leave when it's what it was a season or two ago. Yeah,
I mean, he said he'd leave even if they got a points deduction and everything else. I'm not sure how much I believe of that. But I don't think it'll even happen now. It's gone on too long. I don't know what your opinion is, Mark, but I just feel like it's gone on too long. It's dragged out. They've already got rid of some charges because of a loophole or some sort of ruling. I just don't think it's going to happen, especially with Haaland signing that massive deal. Guardiola saying he's going to stay. The influx of players you just had, I just can't see it happening. I can just see ourselves and Everton like foaming at the mouth to basically sue the Premier League, essentially.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I'm a football fan. I like talking about football and the games and goals and stuff, not all the stuff that nowadays goes with it. I find it tiring. But, I mean, I said in the beginning that this will drag on and on and on, and then it will be an end up possibly huge fines, but the Premier League will make lots of money out of it. And as you rightly said, City are very clever in what they do, especially with announcements and timings of announcements. The announcements they've done, the signings they've made, has virtually said to everybody, that's not happening. And normally when you're guilty of something, it's wrapped up pretty quick. That's the way that system tends to work. But but listen, there's quite a few grounds I've not been to in the 3rd and 4th division. So if they dropped us down there, I could take a few grounds off. I would have no problem whatsoever.
Was you not doing Gillingham and Walsall?
Yeah. But I'm talking a bit lower, Exeter and stuff like that.
Fair enough.
I mean, you've been where we've been. That third, there's some great days out on grounds there.
Two players I did want to talk to you about, especially we've already mentioned one in Kuzmanov. First player from Uzbekistan to grace the Premier League, and he's not really been allowed. Well, he's not had the chance to actually probably play in his preferred position of centre half. He's been playing more right back. Yeah. What you mentioned about his passing ability. You were saying to your lad that he can do it all a little bit. I don't really know that much about him, which is quite unusual because I'm an absolute Football Manager nerd. So normally I know about these like hidden gems. But what can you tell me about him and what's been so impressive for you so far?
I'll be brutally honest. I've never heard of him. I'm the opposite to you. But I go week in, week out, so I can judge from what I see. So I've seen every game he's played. His positional sensing is good. He reads the game well. He just keeps it simple at the moment, which is the ideal thing to do when you're coming into a new team club. He'll get it and he'll give it to someone who can play. And he just looks an old-fashioned centre-half. He'll get in a footing where he needs to. And it sounds like, you're judging him off 3 or 4 games, but I think he's been that good. And what's he, 19? Or maybe just turned 20. So, yeah. But I tend to go to my lad who's 22 when I ask him about the players. I don't know because he's more, he knows more about them. But, he just looks... He just looks a player. And sometimes Adam, don't you, especially when you're there live, you can see little things to do, little bits of movement. To have that sort of cleverness already at that young age then tells me there's a good player in there.
It's similar to Murillo, who plays left-hand side of centre-half for us. Like he's this Brazilian guy who, I mean, he was doing flicks and tricks on Monday night against Ipswich. And you're just like, what the hell? Like, this is, I kind of just think, that's quite normal for him, really. Like, he's a joy to watch, especially for a centre half. It's a bit strange. His confidence
His confidence must get better and better with the season you're having as well. You can see. I mean, I've watched a few of the games, and it looks like the players are all hungry as well, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a pivotal point now in our season because we've just come off a really you're the final game of our extremely sticky run we've had at the start of this year now, and it's one of them where we're at home. We've got to try and get some sort of result, whether that's a draw or a win or something, just to keep us in that mix because we are in danger of potentially going back the other way if we're not careful. But just sticking on Kuzmanov, you mentioned that he's a bit more of an old-fashioned centre half. Do you worry then if he's playing right back for you on Saturday with someone like Callum Hudson-Odoi or Anthony Elanga going against him? Is that a battle where you kind of go, well, I'm not sure about that because they are tricky wingers, they're quick and quite intelligent players?
No, I'll be quite confident with him, and I say that confidently. Yeah, I think he'd be okay. I mean, Vinicius Junior gave him a tough 10 minutes away in Madrid, and after that, he got up to speed with it, and he really didn't get another kick, despite what they might tell you on TNT and what they portray from the commentary. What happens on the pitch is miles apart. But that's another story. You'll find out that next season when you qualify for the Champions League, the difference in that. But no, I'll be quite confident up again. He'll sit. He doesn't sort of normally would have Carl Walker or Rico Lewis, and they tend to go marauding, as I call it. Pep likes them to come inside. So it does leave the gaps. And we've not really had that cover. Rodri would mop it up. Gonzalez has come in now, so he might do that job. But He's had good with Rodri. No one will do it as good as him. So I'll be confident that we won't leave the spaces on Saturday behind. So, and he'll have cover as well.
Yeah, we'll talk more lineups because I think I know kind of where you're going with it in terms of how he's going to play. But what's the other player that we need to mention is Omar Mamouche, because in the summer we had a last minute bid for him, and Frankfurt wanted quite a bit more money. It sounded like Mamouche wasn't too keen on the move either, especially coming to a club that had just fought relegation for the last two seasons. He's had an absolute breakout season in Bundesliga. I mean, he was challenging Harry Kane for top scorer early doors and then got his move to City. What have you made of him so far? I know he scored a hat-trick the other week against Newcastle impressively and kind of had to lead the line for a few games because Haaland's been injured, but he's definitely more of a second striker in I think in what I'm saying. What have you made of him so far?
He's been a breath of fresh air really, and much needed. His movement is good, and if he'll be a foil for Haaland so he can drop deep, he goes out wide. His link-up play is good, which is what we've been missing again this season. So, I mean, you mentioned the season that he had. He could have got the pick of where he wanted to go off the back of the form he had in the Bundesliga. So, but yeah, I'm not too sure his age. What's he, 23, 24, maybe around that, is he? So, yeah, and he's hungry as well. And it wasn't a big superstar name coming in, which City don't really buy them because they're not out there now, these type of players. You've got your Mbappes and stuff like that, but you don't go and get them. But he's been good and a much needed one and a good foil for Haaland as well. And I think when they get a bit of an understanding, that'll be good as well. I like to see two up top quite high.
Has he very much replaced Julian Alvarez? Because I was quite surprised to see him go. I really like him as a player, Alvarez. And I was just really shocked that he wanted to go. I probably get it from his point of view. He wanted to be more of the main man, I guess, and wasn't maybe getting that. I just feel like if he'd waited another season, he would have probably been that guy. Like he was so pivotal when Haaland never played, or if they played together, he was just always so good. Like if De Bruyne wasn't playing, it just made me really shocked that happened, and like City allowed that to happen.
Yeah, well, see, he's playing where he should play now. He's in his position. I mean, we took him and we stifled him. We're playing him out left or out there, which he looked lost in games. He's a Tevez type player. He needs to be the main man. He needs to be up front, hustling, bustling, which he showed for Atletico in midweek. But do we miss him? I'd say no, because we never really see the best of him. Maybe he probably had one or two games, if that, up front when there was no Haaland, because Haaland plays every week. He's an absolute machine. So there's a fantastic player in there. I'm not doubting that whatsoever. But I didn't see it because we wasted him. We stifled him, and he was right to go because he needed, to be that main man and in a team. So to say, do we miss him? I'd say no, because we never really utilised him.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'm going to bring up the lineup you sent to me, Mark, and I will read it out for our audio listeners. So you might have to correct me on this because I think I should have asked you what formation you're playing, but
I don't know. As you mentioned, to try and pick Pep's team is impossible. I've been trying to do it for 8-9 years. You can't do it.
Well, I've made it as a 4-2-3-1 with Ederson in goal, Kuzmanov, Ruben Diaz, Gvardiol, and Nico O'Reilly at left back, Nico Gonzalez and Phil Foden in centre midfield, Savinho right, Marmouche just behind Haaland, and Doku out on the left wing. You said this might be a 4-1-4-1 type formation when City probably have the ball where you're going to dominate possession. It's only natural. From what you told me about Kuzmanov, Guardiola likes to do this where Nico O'Reilly will probably come more as a central midfielder and you form a back three when you've got the ball, basically. Is that what your thinking is? That's
what I'm expecting. Yeah, he'll work it the other way with this squad. I can't see Kuzmanov going marauding too much or stepping in. He'll do the job what's needed on Saturday to stifle your threat that side. Nico O'Reilly came in, and Savinho and Doku will probably alternate to keep that. It's very hard to pick a Pep team. It really is. But that's the side I'd like to see on Saturday for sure.
What have you made of Phil Foden this season? Because I hit so many different things that he's been so out of form. I mean, he was injured for the start of the season. I feel like he's found it quite difficult to get his rhythm this season going. What have you made of him?
It's another one. His standards have been so high, Adam. Last season, he was phenomenal. When he got the ball, you thought he was going to drop a shoulder and he's going to pop it. He does look a shadow of that player last season. And you think, what's and he's 24. He's been playing at this level now for since he was 17. What's that? 8 years at this high level. So there was going to be a job, but people expect him just to be phenomenal every season. Or maybe I'm being defensive of him. I don't know, because we love him to bits. But he does look. He looks tired. He looks like he needs a break. But and there's so much emphasis on him to be that made man, to make stuff, and even more so off the back of last season. But is he out of form? Yeah. But that's only because his standard was so high. It's so high. Do you get what I mean? What I'm saying? It's so high that he does all the time. Anything less than that, it's out of form. So, but he does. Yeah, for me, he looks tired, and he does look a little lost at times this season. And you're thinking, he doesn't look as confident with dropping to get the ball, and he doesn't look as head up to take it on. He's just keeping it very simple, his game, give and go, which they encourage you to do when you're not playing well. Just keep it, But say he's 24. He's played a lot of football.
Do you think it's also to do with the fact that you haven't had Rodri or Kevin De Bruyne play that this much this season, where he maybe has that thinks there's a bit more responsibility on him to be that creative spark, and maybe it's tricky, especially like Savinho is a new player that's come into the team this year. Doku was here last season but hasn't played. He's been very much in and out of the team, I would say, and maybe that's something to do with that. I really don't know, but it could be something. I don't know, that maybe something in the back of his mind, a bit of confidence there with
possibly
that
yeah
responsibility.
And there's not that insurance having the Rodri there, and the team's changed so much all season because of injuries and stuff like that. So he's never really been a settled side, and so Phil's not. He missed the majority of the first part of the season for injury, as you said. So, but yeah, there possibly could be a bit of confidence lacking at the moment.
I don't really need to tell you this, Mark, because Forest are very, very, very well known this season that we're going to play on the counter attack, and I expect no different against the Manchester City side that will want to keep the ball primarily. Where's the chink in this City side that Forest can exploit, would you say?
If we attack you, it seems like it feels like one of them seasons. Every time we lose the ball, people break on us and score. It feels that way. So we're exposed when we're forward. I mean, Arsenal the other week, we got hit for 5. I don't think it's a 5. It wasn't a 5-1 game, but we were attacking, but we wasn't really creating. But as soon as the ball broke, there was so much space, which I fear could happen on Saturday. And I'm thinking, Pep, sit deep, stick a few balls over the top, just get them turning so we're not so vulnerable. Gonzalez has made a bit of a difference, but he'll need time to sort of bed in that role he's doing. So I think in behind, that's why I'm hoping Kushnov stays. He doesn't go, which I don't think it is in his armoury to go. So it's on the break. So it could be a bit of a stalemate, Adam. Could it, if we don't, it'd be like a game of chess, really, Saturday. If we don't go, then how are you going to exploit us? And if you don't go, how are we going to exploit you?
I mean, I'd absolutely snap your hand off for a point, to be honest, just because we need to reverse we need to do better than the reverse fixture where we gave City too much respect in that game. You was on an absolute dire run of form, and you continued the dire run of form after you beat us 3-0 at the Etihad, and I couldn't believe it. Because I went to that game and I was just what the heck is happening? Also, Chris Wood missing a decent one-on-one chance. I was just going to say,
Chris Wood had every other game he had this season, but it might have been a different result that night. But yeah, there was a fair few chances on offer that night as well. But we've not lost, throw this one at you, we've not lost to the City ground in 30 years. So 95, 96 was the last time. But then again, we've only played there 7 times in that period. But I hate to say it, I think you might be due a win since you come back up. What's it, 3 seasons now? Played 5, City won 4, 1 draw, 14 goals and 1 against. So that might change this season. This is the season to change against City, this one.
Yeah, I mean, Nuno's done this quite a lot against a lot of teams this season. I think it's the first time we beat Man United and Liverpool away in our history. We beat Liverpool for the first time in 55 years at Anfield, which is ridiculous. So there's records there to be broken. And I mean, if we're going to get back on the winning horse, this is the game to do it in, really, to keep that gap. Yeah. I mean, what's your thoughts been on Forest this season? Because everyone's had their say. Everyone said, look, we'll run out. And you'd say the last few games against Fulham, Newcastle, and Arsenal, maybe, where we've lost 2 and drawn 1. people would probably say our luck is starting to run out, and especially with how tight that top of the table is, other than Liverpool. It's extremely tight, isn't it? It's quite entertaining though. It's quite fun at the same time.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it really is. But everyone's expecting Forest to fall away. You sound like you are as well. The Forest fans will be, this can't continue. You must be, and not say dreaming, that's a bit detrimental, but what a fantastic season so far. And with everyone expecting they can't finish there, can they? Well, why not? Why not? You're there on merit. So it's just, and then you're saying we're really probably the last big team home game you got. I wouldn't put us in that bracket that we'll go there Saturday expected to win. We're not really in that bracket this season. So, and the place will be bouncing, I'm sure. It's always a great atmosphere there. So I think, I think Forest are just fantastic. But I've been intrigued, Adam, to ask you, though, would you take a Champions League spot or an FA Cup victory? I'd love to hear you.
Europe via the FA Cup. I mean, an FA Cup win would be amazing. I mean, we were saying on our pod the other day, the guys who were covering the Ipswich game, they were saying, take City away, we're the most recent team to have won it, which is in 1959. It's a story in itself that if Man City don't win the FA Cup, someone who's never won it or someone who won it nearly 60 years ago or whatever is going to win the FA Cup or whatever. It's like absolutely mental to say that. So that it's a great story in that sense. So yeah, I think if I got offered it, I'd probably say FA Cup. Why not? Because you win a trophy. I mean, I don't think Arsenal will win a trophy this season. And that's quite funny to me, really. I think it's probably quite funny to the rest of the league as well, if that happens. So yeah, I think FA Cup win and come wherever, I wouldn't mind. I don't think. So yeah.
It could end up a City Forest final. You never know.
Oh God. What players do you fear from Forest that you go, oh God, I don't want him to get on the ball too much, and we need to stifle them?
Well, your wingers are busy, aren't they? They cut inside well. Chris Wood, obviously, with the goals he got, so he'll give anybody every game, every day of the week a game, won't he? Because that's in his makeup. Is he a 7, 8 out of 10 every game, Chris Wood? You'll know more than me. You know what you're getting from him, and he's obviously added. I mean, I was looking at his career. He's had some teams, isn't he? It was on their way to the Ipswich game actually a couple of weeks ago. My lad was reading them off, and it went on for about 5 minutes. He's had a lot of clubs, hasn't he? And I didn't realise how many clubs he'd been at, but now he's found goals, added like consistent goals to his game. So Chris Wood, obviously, and Alanga is the lad, another one. So he'll play out right, will he? Is that right? Dangerous. And for what I've seen Forest, especially at home, they do attack with pace. So there's a lot of danger there.
Definitely. I mean, it's going to be an interesting game. The early kickoff is always a coupon buster as well. Mark,
you're home earlier, right?
Yeah. Are you making the trip up yourself?
Yes, yeah, we'll be. Yeah. So, should be a good game, a good atmosphere as well. And like you say, I think the City ground will be bouncing because the team kind of need us. Having been on a bit of a not a barren run, but a bit of a poor run of form with difficult games in there. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. What's your score prediction, Mark? I'm going 2-2.
Desmond, I like it. I'll take it, to be fair, because I think it's again, I will reiterate, tough game. No matter what City side are going to turn up, but having beaten Spurs, you'll be buoyant, I guess. Yeah.
It's a third place shootout, isn't it? It's the Champions League shootout for third place. I think we'll go above you, Adam. Is that right? If we win? Yeah,
you will. I think that we can go down to 5th if results go our way. And then I know you mentioned about. I sound like I'm starting to doubt it. It's Forest PTSD, Mark.
Yeah, I know. As you're saying it, I think you sound like a manic depressant with it because you're close to achieving, not achieving something, but you get what I mean. I've been there.
It's a different feeling from the last 2 seasons because where we was looking behind our shoulders all the time, like going, "Oh, I hope Luton don't win." Now this season we're like, "Oh, I hope Man City or Chelsea don't win," and it's a bit of a strange kind of.
Are you enjoying it or are you finding it stressful? Honest,
both. But more enjoyable, if anything, because you can kind of relax that you're not going to get relegated. We was only expecting to come mid-table, so
he's got to be manager of the season, Nuno, surely off the back of this season. forget. I mean, I know slots have come in, but he's got, there was a ready-made team there to come into, and yes, he's got them playing well and getting results. But from Forest, from where they were to where you are now, within a year, is fantastic.
Nuno said he's not achieved anything yet, so I think you got to wait till the end of the season to give that, because I think there's a few managers that are in that shout. I think you've got to include Slot to some extent, but Iraola, Marco Silva, Nuno, they've all done really good jobs. So yeah, it's going to be an intriguing end to the season. The last 11 games could be amazing. I've always said that I think it'll go down to Chelsea at home as a last game, where there might be 2 or 3 teams that are fighting out for the Champions League. The last 2-3 spots could be a fight for the Champions League between maybe 4, 5, 6 teams, which would be amazing. So let's hope that it kind of happens from a neutral / Premier League point of view, because it's a great advertisement for the Premier League.
There will be a few chops and changes in that top 4. Obviously,
definitely.
The league's done with Liverpool, but there'll be a few.
Definitely. Well, Mark, Reece wanted to ask you about your shirts as well, because you're a big match worn collectors. Is the one that you're wearing a match worn?
Yes, I'm wearing the shirt that Andy Morrison captained City in the 1999 playoff final victory over Gillingham. You can see he's still got. We couldn't afford armbands then, so it's just a bit of sticky tape on the arm. So I produced a couple of books on my collection as well, just telling a little bit about the shirts. I've been collecting for many years. My cousin played for City in the 80s, McCarthy. So I'd always wanted to sort of secure one of his shirts, and when I did, I was only meant to get one, and at one stage I had near on 600 original match-worn shirts going back to the 1926 FA Cup finals, the oldest one I got.
Wow, that's amazing. What's your favourite?
I've asked that all the time. It's probably my cousin's shirt because of the link to it, and it's the first one I got. But I'll probably say that one.
Amazing. Cool. Thank you very much, Mark. Really appreciate you coming on. Hope you have a nice journey to and from the City Ground.
Nothing else.
Which is terrible and miserable for you, obviously, because and there's a Forest rocking all over the world singing out, which means we'd won. But no, good luck for the rest of the season. Good luck in the FA Cup as well until we meet, hopefully maybe in the final. But until next time when we have our review of the game. Come on, you ready?